Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of August 4th through the 10th of 2025. All right, so this week we're coming up to the halfway point of the lunar month. This will be with the full moon in Capricorn on Saturday. So Capricorn is all about, in this case, balancing more of the personal and emotional energies that we've had going on at the moment. So we have the Sun and Mercury retrograde in Cancer, which has been more of a time of protecting for ourselves and others, connecting more to our feelings, our bodies, maybe the past, and creating that safe and secure environment. So to balance that out now with the halfway point of the lunar cycle, Capricorn reminds us that, of course, it's great to be connecting to this intrinsic world of Cancer, but of course also with the extrinsic, so seeing things in terms of productivity, achievement, accomplishment. Capricorn helps us develop more of this perseverance and patience and persistence that life really needs. So great full moon there to balance out these more intrinsic and extrinsic elements of life. So that's on Saturday, and this is going to be at the same time as really what is a kite formation with Mars. A kite is a grand trine, a very supportive element, but also in opposition as well. So Mars is the planet of our assertiveness, our drive, how we pursue things in life, really what we desire and want to go and get. So this is actually quite supported here this later part of the week. We might feel quite spontaneous with our true self, maybe more assertive, maybe easier to be quite empowered with a trine to Pluto there. But it is opposite up to the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. And so in this case, we've been talking a lot about building a life that's more soul-fulfilling and good for our mental health and spiritual health. So now the question this later part of the week is, how can we balance that out? How can we balance, peace with action, receptivity with action or assertiveness? And so this will be a good thing there. But all in all, I think quite supportive. Okay, so that's the main energy of the week. Once we get to early next week, Mercury will go direct. So we're really finishing up the Mercury retrograde this week as well. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here's the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with August 4th, Monday, August 4th. And as you can see here, we are using the sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. Unfortunately, mainstream doesn't use the actual sizes of the constellations, and so you will notice a lot of things are different. For example, I'm saying that the sun is in Cancer, but you're probably used to hearing it being in Leo right now. So if you are new to this, definitely check out that link down below for more information. Okay, so let's do a quick status check to see where everything is. Again, we are coming up to the halfway point of the lunar month, and the sun is finishing up Cancer here. And Mercury is still retrograding Cancer as well. So Cancer's been the month of really connecting more to our intrinsic world. Like I said, creating that safe and secure environment for ourselves and others. And Mercury retrograde is helping us learn about this, maybe approach a lot of these things differently, maybe go back to the past and reconnect to some of these intrinsic values of life. And so that's certainly still the theme of the week here. Along with that, we still do have a lot of communicative and perhaps interactive energy with Venus and Gemini. So it is a great time for learning, maybe doing some writing, and again, maybe exchanging with others, whether it's through communication, business, trade, connecting to peers, siblings, or neighbors. And this is always a great way of connecting right now when Venus is in Gemini. And Mars, which is highly activated this week, as we said, is in Virgo. And so when it does come to our actions, very good to be methodical, really look at the details of things. We don't want to go too far or too under with this. Mars isn't the easiest placed here, okay? So when it does come to our actions, we want to make sure that there's a conscious intention to, yes, be improvement oriented, get into the details, but without going to any over or under extremes with this, right? So maybe avoiding things like overly controlling or protective energy or perfection energy, maybe, not enough of it, maybe malaise or kind of apathy. So finding that middle ground there in terms of doing when it comes with the improvement. And what I really like to focus on with this, the personal development levels of Virgo in general. Okay, so that's what we've got this week. So as you can see, all of the aspects are really concentrated in the later part of the week, and that's with the full moon that we have really approaching Saturday there. So the early part of the week is going to play more of a dominance with the moon and also with the sign change of the sun going into Leo. So let's go ahead and start with Monday. So Monday, and really the bulk of Tuesday for most of us, will have the moon in Ophiuchus, and this is the healing part of the sky. It's where we have the center of the Milky Way galaxy, and here it's a very transformative element. So how can we really connect to that deeper world? But not only connect to it, it makes it a great couple days here for healing of all kinds. This can be certainly, like we think of it, psychological, spiritual, emotional, but also physical healing as well. But all in all, just working with that deeper world. And likely as a result of that, noticing a transformation that comes as a result. And we'll likely feel that transformation at some point on Tuesday, depending on where you are in the world. But definitely once we get into Wednesday, after the moon has officially left that galactic center, which is right here at the end of Ophiuchus and the beginning of Sagittarius. So Sagittarius, where the moon will be late Tuesday, all day Wednesday and Thursday, is really good for that post-transformation energy, right? What happens after transformation? We feel more free, we feel more healed, rejuvenated, and it's what I would say is the sort of free-spirited energies of Sagittarius. So it's much more about connecting to what inspires us in life, our spirit for life, our adventurousness, our open-mindedness, and so really expanding our mental and literal horizons really becomes the main theme there for really what we would call the early to middle part of the week. Now, around the Thursday time period, Friday especially, the sun will get closer to Leo. And this starts really not really the Leo cycle until we have the next new moon here in a couple weeks, but it starts the Leo energies, okay? So the sun in Leo means we'll start to focus more on what gives us passion and love in life. This is, by the way, known in mainstream astrology as the Lion's Gate, except what they won't tell you in mainstream astrology is that this is literally when the sun enters Leo in the true sky. But sun in Leo, all about passion, doing what's more important to us when it comes to our hearts, okay? So fun, creativity, comedic energy, fun-loving energy, passionate energy. This is all a really good way of viewing life, what energizes us in general, what are we proud of, what do we love in life, and really focusing on these things, okay? So we'll likely notice that shift, but again, that shift will be more stronger once we have the first new moon here, and of course, once perhaps Mercury and then eventually Venus get in here as well. But there's definitely that shift here around this Thursday into Friday time period. Okay, so Friday is where we will start to, I think, strongly feel some of these aspects, and really it looks like a lot of aspects, but it's really just one. It's one aspect pattern, as it's called, which is one pattern in the chart, which in this case is the kite. The kite formation, it looks like a kite, and it's coming from Mars, okay? Mars is the one really activating it too. So Mars is, again, the assertive side of ourselves. It's the proactive side of ourselves, the masculine side of ourselves. And all in all, the kite is quite supportive. You can see the trine up to Uranus and Pluto here, which is really speaking to more of an energy that we're going to notice next year. So 2026, right around the July time, right around this time next year, we will have Uranus trining Pluto. And that's going to be very important collectively, and I think very supportive collectively, where we could be noticing a lot of empowering changes, more freedom, things that are very revolutionary and transformative when we're dealing with these two planets. The last time these two planets were conjunct or next to each other was the 60s. And so we know the 60s was extremely revolutionary time. So it's not a conjunction, so not as strong, but very much like that in the sense that they're supporting each other in that transformation and revolutionary sort of process. But anyways, that's personally and collectively, mostly next year once we had the first contact with that. So right now, it's you could say a sneak peek of that. It's also activating the Saturn-Neptune conjunction we've been talking a lot about. That's also starting next year. That's around the February time. That one deals more with having more peace in life, okay? So we've been talking about Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, building a life that's more soul-fulfilling, putting more development into our mental health and spiritual health. And so although that really starts next year, again, a sneak peek. And so in this case, Mars represents a lot of the action-oriented energy we're talking about. And in Virgo, again, very detailed and wanting to be very perfection oriented with a lot of that stuff. But the opposition to Pisces here with Saturn and Neptune suggests that while it's a good time, and again, a very supportive time for action, to balance that out with that receptive energy of Pisces, right? To balance that out with our soul connection, to balance that out with perhaps doing or being more present, or just remembering to check in with our soul or check in with our intuition, right? So the challenge here is that we do want to balance, even though Mars is supported, we do want to balance that fiery energy with more of the water energies, right? So ego with soul, action with receptivity or inaction, proactivity with receptivity. So this kind of a thing, right? And I think all in all, it should be quite constructive, especially if we are incorporating things with that balance. So that is going to be the Kite formation there with Mars, which, as you can see, really encompasses Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here. Okay, but that's the same time as the full moon. So Saturday, we have the full moon in Capricorn. That's going to help balance out what has been a lot of this Cancer energy. It will technically be when the sun is in Leo, so it can also help balance some of that as well. So Capricorn's all about that bigger picture, the extrinsic world, right? Things like productivity and achievement and accomplishment. And when it comes to the actual qualities of life, patience, perseverance, responsibility. And so this is a great time to do a status check with that. How is our responsible side? How is our patient side? How is that side of ourself that wants to achieve or accomplish things in life? And seeing how that's been going, especially the past 6 months, which is about the last time we had the new moon in Capricorn. So it marks the halfway point of the year with that. But all in all, status check, how is that more grounded, responsible, long-term, long vision side of ourselves? And that can help ground out a lot of that Cancer energy, because the emotional and the personal becomes very intrinsic. So we want to make sure we're also being extrinsic, and also the Leo energy too. Although it's great to focus on fun and playfulness, we can't really be healthfully fun and playful and heart-centered unless we have responsibility, discipline, patience, right? Somewhat of a self limitation here. So great to check in with that side of ourselves, and that can help balance out some of this stuff. There's no major aspects with the full moon, so it's really going to be just concentrated, I think, on the actual Capricorn side. But all in all, full moons, again, halfway point of the cycle. Great time to do a status check. How has not only the last 6 months, but how has the last 2 weeks been going in the lunar cycle? Maybe there's some things to make some shifts and changes with. Again, probably in the responsible side of things. But good time to start to incorporate some of those shifts and changes, which will take us into next week. Once we do get to Sunday, the moon will shift into Aquarius. Sunday is great for this innovative energy of Aquarius. This, much like that Uranus, thinking outside the box a little bit, helpfully challenging the status quo, but always just a good time to also check in with the community, or our network circles, or friends, or the world at large. And so we start to get into more of this kind of visionary, future-oriented sort of collective energy as well. Okay, so nothing major with that. It's just the moon there, which will take us into Monday, but we have a little bit of a backdrop with that on Sunday. Okay, and then once we do get to next week, and what we'll start to feel on Sunday is Mercury slowing down. Okay, so we're ending the Mercury retrograde, Mercury going direct late Sunday, early Monday for most of us, and this is a pause with Mercury, so maybe Sunday a good time to sort of pause with some of the things in the day-to-day life, create a little more space, or allow for a little more space in our day-to-day life. And this can support a lot of the shifts and changes that the direct will then incorporate, because really by the end of this retrograde, it's going to be a great time to start to incorporate what we've reconsidered or relearned the past 3 weeks. So if you want to ask yourself, what have you been looking at differently? What shifts of perspective have you had the past few weeks that you can start to implement really for the next three months plus? Is great to do that. But give yourself plenty of time to do that. Again, there's no forward movement until probably later next week, once Mercury's built some momentum, and especially not until 3 weeks from now, once Mercury gets out of his shadow, which is his retrograde part of the sky. So give it plenty of time, but there's certainly a shift there, and it's never too early to start to really just connect and see what has been learned or what has shifted that we can start to incorporate slowly. All right, everyone. So that's the week in a nutshell. Put simply, It's a full moon week. That's on Saturday. We're approaching that throughout the majority of the week. So we'll notice a bit of momentum building and heightened awareness, as the full moon often gives us. The full moon is helping us view life or incorporate a little more of this patience and persistence and long-term view of life a little bit more. Maybe some of these responsible energies when it comes to the things that we care for in life with Cancer, and also the things that we are passionate for in life with Leo. But all in all, a great time to perhaps start to incorporate some of these shifts and changes. This is coinciding with a kite formation with Mars, which is really giving us a lot of sneak peeks into what 2026 is about, and could even set the stage for a lot of 2026 developments for us personally and collectively. All in all, supportive with this sense of freedom and liberation with the trine to Uranus, and empowering energy, willingness to face things with the trine to Pluto, but remembering that it's great to balance it out with receptivity, with the opposition with Mars to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, action and inaction, proactivity with receptivity. All right, so that's the week in a nutshell. Of course, also the sun going into Leo, as we said, so a little more of that focus on what we love and what's close to our hearts. All right, so everyone have a great week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the notification bell down here if you're watching this on YouTube, as we do put out these weekly videos every week, but we also have a live stream that goes live just a few hours after this, and that'll notify you of exactly when we do go live. That's going to be at 1:15 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays, Eastern time of the Americas, if you do want to join us there for that. But hit that notification bell, that'll notify you, and I hope you all have a great week, and I'll see you all next week for the next astrology forecast. Take care.